Welcome to McGuire on Wrestling.
What do you guys want to talk about?
Let's give the people what they want. Professional wrestling.
With Mike McGuire.
The happiest Canadian camper in the world.
Tell me when I'm telling lies.
Give me a hell yeah.
Hello, if you're listening in Canada, happy August long. And if you're listening anywhere else, thank you so much for downloading or listening to the latest edition of McGuire on Wrestling. On the radio and online, you can find us at McGuireShow.com or wherever you get your favorite podcasts, and airing on select radio stations across the country as well. My name is Mike McGuire. Every week, love talking to you about the business of pro wrestling, and we do it in a way that I feel is fun, informative, and even a little silly. Depending on the day, depending on the stories, depending on what's going on. Because let's face it, we're talking about pro wrestling here. It's an art form. It's a spectacle. It's not a rigged sport. If you want to watch that, the Olympics are going on. But in all seriousness, it's the fastest hour in wrestling talk, and we got a lot to talk about as we are hot off the heels of WWE's SummerSlam, which took place in Cleveland, Ohio on Saturday night. It was an epic show. 50,000 fans plus reported in attendance, and it was one of those things where you just knew it was going to be a special night. If you've been following along and watching the shows, we did get a major return, we got title changes, and we got a lot more. We will talk a lot more about SummerSlam in this show here, but that's not all we talk about. In fact, we try and cover as much of the wrestling world, especially the North American-based stuff, as much as we can, and give it to you in an easy-to-digest form. Of course, there's other discussions in pro wrestling going on all the time, and we invite you to check those out at our Facebook page, Team MOW, McGuire on Wrestling. It's growing. It's getting some legs here. Lots of great fan feedback, some old wrestlers in there as well, and you never know who will pop in, but it's a really cool conversation, and it's absolutely free to join. We just ask that you log in and wait for us to let you into the page. That way we get to keep the bots out and make things fun and fair for everybody. So really cool group of people there. Not a lot of online harassment. We don't put up with that sort of garbage, but we do encourage some great discussion and difference of opinions, because that's what it's all about. We want to have our different sides and say what we like, what we don't like. That's part of the fun of it. Also invite you to support the show. Many ways you can do that. T-shirts in the merch store are actually going to be coming up with some new designs very soon. And also we have something planned for a fundraiser for the Jasper wildfire relief situation that's going on in Jasper, Alberta, not far from where I'm based here in southern Alberta, Canada, but over 300 homes and other buildings destroyed in this insane wildfire that's still burning, actually. The town site has been saved, but now it's just a case of, will we ever get the actual fire out? It's thousands of acres of natural beauty and wildlife, world famous, and it's burning as we speak. So we want to try and help out where we can for the future there. So stay tuned for more details on that. But if you want to support this little show, there's ways you can do that as well. This show is always free, always about pro wrestling, but if you can help us knock off a bill or two here and there, it's appreciated. Never required. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, show ideas, or more, you can always contact me, McGuireShow, at yahoo.com. That's my direct email address. You're getting right to me, right into my phone when I get that. Or you can also find me on social media, at McGuireShow, wherever you follow on social media. I'm on all the big platforms there under at McGuireShow, and I will get back to you. Invite you to check out some of our other podcasts that are all on the McGuire on Wrestling feed, including my friend Joe Aguinaldo and I, who present We've Seen a Movie from time to time. That focuses just on the movies of John Cena. And, of course, every Saturday you can join our friends Mitch and Dimitri. They are the ultimate wrestling fans that treat this as a couple of busy dads that watch wrestling from time to time, because guess what? That's what they are. But they do it in such a fun way, and it's really become its own entity over there, the Greek World Order, as they call themselves. And every once in a while, yours truly even pops by, or other special guests. You just never know what's going to happen there. But every Saturday, that downloads. And again, you get all these shows for free if you just subscribe to McGuire on Wrestling, wherever you get your podcasts. Let's get on with the show. Coming up, we launch a new segment called Yay Boo when it comes to your thoughts on WWE SummerSlam. Coming out of that event, we have a lot of things to talk about. So, Joe Aguinaldo will be here to join me as we go through some of your feedback there. Also, an update on the potential injury happening to one of the new Bloodline members. In fact, one of the newest new Bloodline members may be out of action for a little while. The Wrestling Observer's Dave Meltzer is here to go through some of the big headlines of the week for us, as well as late-breaking news. AEW's All in London is getting closer and closer, plus an update on the Leo Burke special we're working on, and more. While SummerSlam is full of its own headlines and news, let's take a look back at some of the other big stories from the week. This is the 5 Count.
You want to hear the breaking news?
Well, like I said, we'll be talking all about WWE SummerSlam in just a bit here. But for the second time in the same year, WWE will be returning to Canada with another premium live event, as Vancouver, for the first time ever, will host one of the big four in WWE's Survivor Series War Games.
Just got off the phone with our partners at Destination Vancouver, and it is now a done deal. Thanksgiving weekend. Saturday, November 30th, Rogers Arena, Vancouver, Canada. Survivor Series War Games.
It was just last month that Toronto hosted Money in the Bank. This is the third Survivor Series to come from Canada, as Toronto hosted it in 2016. And then there was this one Survivor Series in 1997. I think it was in Montreal. I don't remember much happening of consequence from that show, though. Anyway, tickets and pre-sale information can be found now at WWE.com. After years away from the company, former superstar and commentator Jesse the Body Ventura was backstage at WWE's Monday Night Raw this past week in St. Paul, Minnesota. Now, several photos and videos were shown of Ventura meeting backstage with wrestlers, Chief Content Officer Paul Levesque, and even CM Punk reintroduced himself to the legend.
We met maybe like 10 plus years ago.
Okay.
I CM Punk, Phil.
Oh, yeah,
How are you,
CM Punk.
I saw you.
You got that unique name. I always tried to figure that name out. How the hell did you come up with a name like Punk?
Stupid name.
Well,
that's my nickname when I was a kid.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, good for you.
I was a little punk rock kid.
Well, then it served your purpose good.
It did.
And you couldn't forget it.
I've been CM Punk for more than half my life now. So.
Yeah.
Ventura has hinted for some time now that since Vince McMahon is no longer in the company, he would consider getting involved again somehow. Ventura was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame back in 2004, but has largely been distanced from WWE ever since. MVP's contract with WWE has officially expired as of this past Friday. While he is currently overseas traveling, he did make one stop before he left the U.S., and that was at Josh Barnett's Bloodsport, where he and Barnett had an interesting exchange.
I recently got my black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And my contract with a company who I won't mention right now is about to expire. And I'm not going back, Josh. I'm not ready to retire yet. And there's a few things I gotta do before I hang them up for good. Josh Barnett, would you fight me at a blood sport?
This is the land where the Hurt Business cashes the most checks. So, you can come here on your own, or you can come here with a posse, but either way, this is the CEO of hurting people.
Now, there's no date set for this match between the two, but after that promo, one has to wonder if MVP will be bringing someone almighty and perhaps a gold standard with him. Well, was it a planned photo or wasn't it? Earlier this week, a photo made its way online of AEW's president Tony Khan meeting with none other than Shane McMahon. Now, this all started innocently enough a while ago, as Jim Ross on his podcast months ago said it would be interesting to see whether or not Shane McMahon would fit into AEW somewhere. With that little spark of speculation, the wheels started turning, and even Tony Khan said he would definitely be willing to talk to Shane O'Mac. That conversation has seemingly now happened, but what could it mean? We'll see what Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer has to say about that coming up. And according to several reports, the exclusivity period for AEW and Warner Brothers Discovery negotiations has come to an end, but All the latest comments from Tony Khan seem to indicate that discussions are ongoing between the two sides. There was even word that Fightful Select suggested a meeting between WBD's David Zaslav and Tony Khan was taking place this weekend in Paris during the Olympics. While several deals and agreements have been speculated, there has been no official declaration from either side as to what, if any, future the partnership has planned as of now. Well, this week in wrestling history saw two very important title changes for TNA Wrestling, 9 years to the day apart from each other, as well as a WCW main event that got a whopping 1.25 stars from a certain Wrestling Observer. That story, Dave Meltzer, and a lot more on the way.
If you're here, you're a part of Team MoW. Join us on Facebook at Team MoW McGuire on Wrestling and get in on the conversation. This is McGuire on Wrestling.
You got to stream the alternate commentary table. Every single Saturday, it's brought to you on the McGuire on Wrestling feed. I'm one half of your host, Dimitri Karolis, and I'm here with my partner, Mitch Hondras. Mitch, what is the alternate commentary table?
It's simple. It's the perspective of wrestling from the other side of the railing, the real fans.
That's right, the perspective that you need. You might have a little bit of fun, too. The alternate commentary table. Subscribe free now to the McGuire on Wrestling podcast feed wherever you get your podcast.
Cheers.
Welcome back to McGuire on Wrestling.
Well, this upcoming week in wrestling history saw history made at TNA Wrestling on the 8th pay-per-view edition of NWA TNA Wrestling, which for those that don't know, that's actually how TNA launched as weekly pay-per-views. August 7th, 2002, Ron the Truth Killings defeated Ken Shamrock to become the first ever African-American NWA World Champion.
Kind of a variation of a diamond cutter there by the Truth. It is. He got him with it. Two. And he beat him away. He beat him the winner of the match. And new NWA Heavyweight Champion of the world, Ron the Truth Killings.
The move that he calls the truth or consequences. He dropped Ken Shamrock down, and he did it. He did it. The Truth is the NWA World Heavyweight Champion.
Fast forward to 9 years later in TNA on August 7th, 2011, Kurt Angle, thanks to an assist of sorts by Hulk Hogan, would defeat Joker Sting to win the TNA World Championship.
And Angle takes the chair right out of Hogan's hands. Angle has said repeatedly he does not want any interference. What the hell? What was that? Just used the steel chair across the back of Sting and then connects with the Angle slam. Angle covers, gets two, and gets three. My God, Kurt Angle has won the title.
And speaking of Hulk Hogan, it was this week in 1998 that Hollywood Hogan and Eric Bischoff would main event WCW Road Wild in a match against Diamond Dallas Page and then host of The Tonight Show, Jay Leno.
Jay Leno in a tough spot. Oh! He moved! The quickness of Leno, believe it or not. Page clothesline sends Hogan over the top.
Eubanks in.
Eubanks is in, the disciple.
He's circling the diamond cutter.
He's going for the diamond cutter.
Can he do it?
Yes, he can. Oh, yeah! Put a diamond cutter on Bischoff. He put it on Bischoff. Leno's going to make a cover. 1, 2, 3.
That was Leno's band leader at the time, Kevin Eubanks, assisting with the finish. That match got a whopping 1.25 stars from Dave Meltzer, who joins us now.
It's time for the Wrestling Observer Insider with Dave Meltzer, McGuire on Wrestling.
Well, hot off the heels of WWE's SummerSlam, and of course, lots more to talk about. Dave Meltzer's here from the Wrestling Observer and WrestlingObserver.com. Dave, how's your weekend been so far?
Very busy.
Yeah.
For sure. A lot of stuff went on yesterday.
Yeah. Well, we got to talk about the big show first, obviously. Your overall thoughts of the SummerSlam card?
I thought it was successful in the sense of a lot of good angles. I think that like angle-wise, it was almost pretty much what was expected, but all done well. You know, the audience was waiting for it. They gave the audience what they wanted. They didn't really have great wrestling. It was more great angles as far as like a show to, continue to build business, I thought it was really, really good. As far as just going out there and having great wrestling matches like you expect on a big pay-per-view, I didn't think that was great at all. I thought that actually, aside from the Logan Paul match and the Priest match, the matches themselves were nothing special. The McIntyre Punk match, I think that, it was so well built up as such a great grudge match. And then the match itself really wasn't that at all. It was really just about Seth Rollins, as referee in some of the spots that they did. So it worked. I'm sure it was really good for business. Will you call it like show of the year or matches of the year or anything like that? Nah, there were many better matches.
Yeah, but to be fair, I think that sometimes that's what a fan wants from a show like this is you want to see some major storyline progression and advancement. And I think they did a good job of doing that because if anything, like I'll agree, like the Punk McIntyre match was a lot different than what I was expecting. I don't know what I was expecting, but I'm with you there. It wasn't totally that. It was a lot more one-sided, which maybe that's the story they wanted to tell of Punk not really having a chance against this bigger, stronger guy. But I think for the story, it definitely did make things a little more interesting.
I think that Punk and Ripley probably were not 100%. And that's why both matches were booked the way they were. They were big matches. It was smoke and mirrors in both cases to get around, but I think the show was a big success.
Yeah.
Great crowd. They got what they wanted. At the end of the day, the crowd wanted, like, I don't want to say they wanted the Dominic turn with Liv Morgan, but they knew they were going to get it. It was expected. Judgment Day split up's a big news. And, when it came down to it, the whole card was about Roman Reigns showing up at the end, and they got that. So that was like the real key to the show.
You compare this Roman Reigns to the Roman Reigns of 10 years ago where they're trying to force it and trying to push it. I mean, this guy couldn't have been more over than he was last night.
No. It's funny because when it ended up going exactly like I and many people had said when Roman Reigns was first a babyface. It was almost like, and the people didn't really want it. It was like, I use Naito as the example. You got to turn him heel, and then in a couple of years, as a great heel, the people will turn him babyface. Mm-hmm. And they waited years and years and years and years to turn him heel. But once they did, it was very clear to me, in the end, this guy is going to turn out to be that babyface that they wanted him to be. I think it was 4 years later, and now he's a part-timer. But the fact is that they've, he's a big superstar, like legendary superstar level at this point. Yes.
Well, and they gave him the babyface remix to his theme song. So, I mean, this is clearly the next path for Roman here. How long do you think before we see Heyman come back?
That's a really good question. I don't really know, but I don't think it'll be that long. I figure Heyman and Jimmy Uso come back first, and then you probably have and then we still got, what happens with Hikuleo. Jey Uso at some point is going to be involved again. I would presume on the Roman Reigns side, but I figure that should be stalled out for a long time. And, you're going to have that feud. I mean, it's so funny when Paul Heyman, like a year and a half ago, I think it was, when he said, they asked, like, where are we? And he said, like, the bottom of the third. And people are going like, oh, God, 10 more years of this. And it's like, boy, they had a lot up their sleeves still,
Yeah.
As I told people, I go like, there's so much left that they could still do, because you knew Roman and Solo was going to be a big feud. And I presume that's a WrestleMania match, and then you got Jacob Fatu. Hopefully he's okay. But, obviously down the line, Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu is going to be a giant match, I think.
Well, there's been some footage and a photo of Jacob Fatu seen in the last 24 hours of him in an air boot on that right foot. So it sounds like a lot of people were thinking it might have been like a major quad tear or something like that, but it sounds like it was something to do with the ankle. But I'm assuming you haven't heard any other update other than what we know.
I've been waiting to get an update. The only thing I heard was ankle, and that's not from it was from someone in the company, but not someone who would necessarily know.
Okay.
So as far as people who would know, I have not heard back from, but texted people and go, is it the ankle? Is it the ankle? And no one said anything to me yet. But that's where I'm at as we record this.
Yeah, and then Solo Sikoa, what a showing for this guy last night. I thought, if anything, this was really trying to build him to the next level here. I don't know if, as just someone who's been watching, I don't know if I felt ready for it, but I've always had this feeling, like even when The Rock became world champion for the first time, and it's these new faces that are getting elevated to that next level. I mean, how do you feel he performed overall in that match with Cody?
I mean, fine. There was nothing wrong with the match. The match didn't really have much heat because everybody was waiting for Roman, So it was kind of like, and run-ins. I mean, once you say it's a bloodline rules match, everyone's going run-ins. So you're sitting there waiting. And, the run-ins came. It was exactly what you would expect, and they got Roman at the end. As soon as they basically turn the match into run-ins, it's kind of like, okay, it's got to build to Roman because anything else would be flat. So, like I said, it was, the end of the show was perfect for the end of the show.
We're talking to Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer and WrestlingObserver.com. We're hot off the heels of WWE's SummerSlam here on McGuire on Wrestling. And Dave, another guy who seems to be turning, and I don't know how much of the post show you watched last night, but Braun Breaker seemed to be kind of turning over a new leaf, if you would, a little bit with his new Intercontinental Championship win.
Yeah, I saw that. I mean, he definitely acted like a babyface. I guess we'll see exactly where they go. Someone will step up as a challenger. It may have just been, I don't know. Like when I think about the way it was done and everything like that. Yeah, long term, obviously he's going to be built to be one of the top babyfaces in the company. So by showing his father and uncle and the post match and everything, the way he praised Sami Zayn. It did have that feel.
Ultimately, a clean finish. I mean, I think this guy's already 3/4 of the way babyface just in the last few months here. I mean, they're all barking along with him. Everybody gets excited to see him come out and do the sprint bits and everything. And I think that there's definitely a future for this guy for sure, as long as
he's going to be top. He's going to be top tier. He'll be top tier for the next, however long, 10, 15, 20 years. Yeah.
For the first time ever in WWE and Canadian history, we're getting a Survivor Series on the west side of the country. This will be rather exciting as WWE has announced Vancouver to be the choice. Do we know anything about this other than just another deal where the city gave what they wanted, or is there any more to this story, you think?
I don't even know that, but it would make sense, for them, because on these big shows, that's what they're looking for. And, Vancouver's a great wrestling city. They sold out quicker in Vancouver than most markets, and AEW did a very strong house when they went to Vancouver. So it's a hot market, be an easy sellout, giant gate and all that. So, it's a, and responsive crowd. So definitely a great city to have a big show in, especially because it's been a long, long time since they've had they had TV tapings there, but it's been a long, long time since they've had, a big pay-per-view there.
We figured it out in the Facebook group. I mean, even a big pay-per-view was never a thing in Vancouver because they had the Rock Bottom in your house, and they had the, I believe it was the International Incident, and that was it, as far as I recall.
They've never had a big four, big five, no.
Yeah, so this is definitely a big move for Vancouver, obviously. Not the ultimate wish of the Vancouver for WrestleMania sign guy, but I mean, we're getting closer. So
it's hard. It's hard to get WrestleMania now because they want to go to London for their own reasons. How much money Saudi Arabia is going to pay when they get their WrestleMania, and then they've already made deals like with Indianapolis and places like that. I'm sure they want to go to Vegas regularly. There's always the New York market. You know what I mean? It's going to be, it's going to be tough for a Vancouver to get a WrestleMania. I'm not saying impossible, but they'll have to for Vancouver, they'd have to pony up a ton of money.
Yeah. And one thing that doesn't help right now is the dollar exchange rate between Canada and US. It costs Canada a lot more to bring in a US show right now than it did even 15, 20 years ago, because it's just crazy the way things are.
Exchange rate, and then also the ticket prices, but people are willing to pay those ticket prices. I mean, that's one of the big stories in the last couple of years is just how much that WWE has been able to raise ticket prices under, the new ownership group, because they're not as shy because they are used to charging people UFC ticket prices, which have also gone up like crazy. I mean, I'll tell you, that UFC's got that show at the Sphere. And I mean, the cheapest tickets when they first put them on sale were $2,700. And I told people, like, I'm not saying that WWE is going to have a show in the next year where the cheapest ticket's $2,700. That's not going to happen. But this is the future of WWE tickets. When you look at UFC tickets, because it's the same company. And, UFC as a more high premium event, you will have the higher ticket prices first. But when you have the WrestleManias and the SummerSlams and those kind of shows, these ticket prices are going to keep going up and up and up as long as people pay. Like there were some of those international shows where there were all those complaints. But at the end of the day, Did they pack the house at those ticket prices? And the answer is yes. So that tells you they're going to probably be raising ticket prices as long as they keep packing houses.
You're listening to McGuire on Wrestling. We have the Wrestling Observer's Dave Meltzer here. And one more thing, WWE related. We're going to come back after that and talk some AEW. But Dave, this was a nice surprise in many ways, a big surprise in others. But this past Monday on Raw, we saw none other than Jesse Ventura make his way through backstage, and some wrestlers were posting Instagram photos and videos with him. And Jesse had hinted a while ago about maybe getting involved again by signing a Legends contract. But how surprising was this to you to see Jesse Ventura back under the fold of WWE at all?
Not in the least.
Really?
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, I'd heard teased, and it's like, no. I mean, it's like, it's a new era, and as you get older, the grudges go away.
Mm-hmm.
Look, Scott Steiner's there. He's fine. You know what I mean? There were periods where, he hated Triple H. CM Punk, you know what I mean? It's like, and I wasn't surprised about Punk either,
Mm-hmm.
It's like, there's no one that would surprise me. I mean, you had Bruno went bad, Bill Goldberg went, Bret Hart. It's like, it's basically inevitable, especially now. You can tell people, it's like, hey, Vince isn't even around anymore. So the guy you were mad at, it's like, he ain't even here anymore. So there's no reason for a non-affiliation. Jesse springboarded his career as a professional wrestler that went into other places. But I mean, it was his fame as a pro wrestler that led to his political ambitions and being governor and writing books and getting TV offers and movie offers and everything like that.
Well, there you have it. Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer. Stick around. We're going to come back and talk all about AEW, including a play they're moving to go against NXT when they land at their new home. That's on the way next.
Thanks for listening to McGuire on Wrestling. To be a part of the show, follow our social media or leave a tip. Head to McGuireShow.com. This is McGuire on Wrestling.
Is he? He's here! He's here! He's here! Roman Reigns is here! Yes, he is!
If you like McGuire on Wrestling, you need to subscribe to the free McGuire on Wrestling podcast feed. Not only do you get access to the show a day early, but you also get free bonus content every week. Share a laugh with Mitch and Dimitri on the alternate commentary table.
Oh, I'm Cody Rhodes. Look at me.
Now, if this was Damian Priest, he'd apologize.
He probably would have apologized.
Follow along with the film career of one of wrestling's biggest stars with We've Seen a Movie.
Basically, I'm just watching John Cena play his wrestling character.
If John Cena was a raging alcoholic Atlantic City mooch before this.
Get all these shows, exclusive interviews, and more for free by subscribing to McGuire on Wrestling, wherever you get your podcasts.
I promise, if I don't win the AEW World Championship, I will never wrestle again.
Oh, wow. What the hell? What? That is...
Welcome back to McGuire on Wrestling.
We're back here with the Wrestling Observer's Dave Meltzer on McGuire on Wrestling. Dave, we've gone through WWE and SummerSlam so far. If you missed that, please check out the podcast version. You can find it at McGuireShow.com or this radio station's website. Let's move forward now with AEW. This past week, the exclusivity deal, the time period where AEW had to negotiate with WBD exclusively, has come to an end now.
It actually ended some time back.
Oh, okay, so it is done now.
It's done. Oh yeah, it's done. But it was a ways back. It was
okay. So that deal is done then, as far as that goes. But there was a report also that Tony Khan was going to be meeting with David Zaslav over in Paris during the Olympics here. Has that meeting happened yet?
They're definitely going to be together in Paris.
Okay.
I mean, Tony is in Paris.
Yeah.
And Zaslav is in Paris. They are going to meet in Paris. I mean, I don't know if that's where, I mean, look, they've been talking on the phone. You know what I mean? It's not like these guys are far, whatever. There have been talks. I know that from the WBD side, they kept telling me we have to make the deal before the exclusivity ends, but they didn't make the deal. And Tony has not indicated. I mean, the last time Tony talked about this, which was, last week, he said he hasn't talked to anybody else. So it feels to me like he feels he's got a good deal there, that he doesn't need to look elsewhere, including ROH. But legally he can talk to anyone. And I think it would be good to do so, but it certainly feels like that WBD is the place it's going to wind up, and I think everyone's expected that from the start, really.
Before we continue with some AEW news here, kind of an AEW thing, kind of not yet, but the big photo that went all around the internet here. How much of reality do you see Shane McMahon being in AEW?
I don't know. There's no way of knowing. It's all up to Shane and Tony. I would say that the fact that you saw it means that there's a possibility. Is it possible Shane used that to try to get back to WWE? Of course. There's ways you can make it work. It's not going to be inexpensive. I can't imagine Shane going to work for the opposition for anything less than a lot of money, and I don't know that that's worth it, but I've heard from people who were there, and they described it as just two people who were wrestling fans meeting. But of course, that's what you're going to say. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's certainly something to talk about. It's possible. I don't know how close we are to it. Whether it's good or bad depends on, I'm not opposed to it, but I'm not thrilled by it. But it just depends on the creative and everything like that. If you make it work and make a hot angle out of it, then it's worth it. To have him there just to be there without something really, really good, kind of a waste. And I know some AEW fans really didn't like the idea of a McMahon, but to me, it's just like, he's a name.
And what's the story there, though? Like, we're hearing different stories, too, of how Shane kind of just isn't welcome back in WWE. Is that?
Well, I don't know what the term is, but he's wanted to go back, and the new management hasn't brought him back. Whether it's they don't want to you go like, well, maybe they don't want a McMahon name, but the fact is they parade Stephanie out just this,
They had her on the show last night. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think it's the McMahon name, but maybe they just, from people who I've talked to there, there's no thrill to have him there. It's like, what's he going to do? Is they don't really want him to wrestle. He got hurt the last time he wrestled. Yeah. They don't really want him as a TV guy. He hasn't worked in management in years and years and years. And it feels like that there's little chance, but you never say never in wrestling, of him being in a management role. I mean, they have, completely different team there. The McMahon name doesn't mean anything, and it's not even a name that he's made attempts to get back in. Nothing has happened. So that led to him meeting with Tony.
Okay. Well, again, it was one of those pictures too. It kind of looked like it was almost not supposed to be taken, like
I don't buy that one. I think everybody for sure wanted you to know that.
Well, could Shane McMahon or something else be in store for AEW as they run against the second week of NXT on the CW later on October the 8th? It was just announced this was going to be happening.
Yeah, the debute's October 1st, but the second show for NXT on CW will go head-to-head with Dynamite on TBS, yes.
Now, is that a planned scheduling thing, or is this a deliberate move by AEW?
Oh, I'm sure that there's like a baseball or something. They wouldn't want to do that. They don't want to move dates. It's like one of those things that's forced on them, and that's what's going to happen. And the one thing is that from WWE standpoint that John Cena and everyone in the world, Undertaker and all that, all of them could end up on that NXT show. I mean, Roman Reigns or whatever, they're going to load that show up like crazy because they don't. Those become that's like that's just the wrestling business. They're going to load up, and the fact is that that will probably be a loaded up AEW show as well.
All right, we'll see what happens then, I guess. But it's interesting to see those two going tete-a-tete again. It's been a while since we had that happen. News came out this week that Britt Baker was reportedly suspended for a short period. What's the skinny on this thing? Because I'm hearing a few different things here, but it sounds like Britt was talking to somebody and somebody else overheard it, and then it got to MJF. And
no. She was in the locker room. She said something. I don't know what it was. Alicia Tout, who's MJF's girlfriend, was in the locker room. She told MJF what happened. MJF was upset about it. And then as far as like what happened there's a million different versions of what happened. But they had an investigation. There was nothing physical. Nobody hit anyone. Nobody, as far as I could tell, threatened anyone. But there was an investigation that was done a week ago Wednesday, and the decision of the disciplinary committee was that Britt would be suspended. I don't know if it was 1 week or 2 weeks. I've heard both. If she's on TV Wednesday, it's 1 week. If she's not on, then it was 2 weeks. But it was a short suspension, and that's the basic story. So I don't consider this like a big deal, other than they have a disciplinary committee, and the stuff that really hurt them a lot, not just with Punk, but there were several other incidents, over the years there that were not really addressed well. Some of them were addressed about as good as you could, and others were not addressed at all. And at least they have something in there where it's addressed. They took action, and I know that there's people who thought that it should have been both sides, and then other people who, everyone has a different version of what happened, but they did an investigation. That was the verdict. And some are unhappy with the verdict, but that's what it was.
And I don't want to talk out of turn here because I obviously don't know what happened. I wasn't there. You weren't there. But this isn't the first time, unfortunately, that we've heard Britt's name come up with maybe talking out of turn about people, though. I mean, there's the whole thing between her and Thunder Rosa.
Everyone talks about everyone.
I know that, but I'm just saying.
Company. I mean, that's like, if you know the stuff that people say to me that I don't print in both companies all the time, it would blow your mind. People always do that. People have their friends. Sometimes, whatever Britt said, Alicia got mad and went to MJF, and there's people go, oh, she shouldn't have. But it's like, if you're in a relationship and someone's saying that, you're probably going to do that. It's just it is what it is. It's nothing unusual. People, it's a group. It's not all, everyone doesn't get along. In any company, that's the case. You don't think that people are talking bad about each other behind their backs in WWE, but the word, you hope that it's not being told back to them. That's why you do it behind their backs. And, it's just one of those things where something did happen on this one.
And as we approach AEW's All In, the stipulation is now out there. I mean, we've known for some time that Bryan Danielson not going to be a full-time wrestler either way here. So I don't know. It feels like some of the steam out of this stipulation has already been taken out of it. But do you see this being a case where it makes the match more interesting or not, with Danielson saying if he doesn't win the AEW championship, he will now never wrestle again? Do you honestly see that being a possibility?
No. I think that we're probably getting it. I mean, I look at it and go, we're probably getting a championship change. We're trying to get a big emotional thing, and that's what they're looking for. That's why Danielson is in this match and not, Adam Page or Will Ospreay, because it's the last time you could do this thing with Danielson, and I think that he thinks that the Danielson crowning achievement at the end of his full-time career is a better story that he wants to tell. He can tell the story with Adam Page, and he can tell the story with Will Ospreay at a later date, because he can do it with Bryan Danielson. It's pretty much it. Bryan Danielson's contract is up. I mean, he is not under contract as a wrestler to AEW, but I would presume that there's some type of a thing in place. And again, Tony can extend the contract. Expired August 1st, but Tony does have the right to extend it for the period he was injured, and he was injured several times during this 3-year run, much longer than a month. So, I mean, as far as people are going like, oh my God, he can go to WWE, they can take him and all that. It's like, I don't think that's in play at all. But, as far as what Bryan's going to do, I know Tony wants Bryan as part of the company and to do, Bryan wants to do 5 matches a year, 10 matches a year. I'm sure he would love to have him. I don't know what it's up to Bryan. I got the impression Bryan wanted to do, a couple of indie matches and small matches. But as far as Bryan being a weekly TV character, it's whenever this run ends, which I presume will be before the end of the year, we won't be seeing him on TV on a regular basis after that, which is a big hole. I think he's one of the best guys in the world that there's ever been. And, it's him not being a regular in AEW. It's a loss for AEW. It's a big one.
Well, there you have it. Some of the headlines from even the past 24, 48 hours here with everything going on. Dave, for things that people may have missed throughout the week, what can they catch up on in the last edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter?
Yeah, we had 2 giant stories, as far as one is the Kung Lee lawsuit, which greatly affects WWE financially, because it's their company that's sued, and the judge refusing the settlement. It could even be billion of dollars or more, how this thing could turn out. But it's a giant. I go through all the stuff on that story. And also, it affects WWE in a second way, because if their case goes to trial and TKO loses, it sets up a case against WWE identically. So TKO cannot afford a bad verdict in this one. And then also story on, the WBD talks, the finances of it, how viable, certain numbers would be for AEW. Went through a lot of the numbers of AEW. So we talked about that. And then, of course, where All In stands, SummerSlam, business, things like that. It's all in the current issue, yeah.
There you have it. Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer and WrestlingObserver.com, regular contributor here to McGuire on Wrestling. Appreciate you, Dave. Thank you so much. Hopefully it's a little bit of a slower week for you this week, but it's pro wrestling. I doubt it.
It's pro wrestling, it will not be.
Coming up, WWE had one of their biggest SummerSlams ever, and we're going to look back at it with some of your feedback. It's a new feature called Yay Boo, and it's on the way next.
This is McGuire on Wrestling.
CKXU-FM 88.3 in Lethbridge is Southern Alberta's true alternative radio station.
The cream of the crop. Nobody does it better.
Proudly carrying McGuire on Wrestling every week.
Yeah.
If you're looking for something different to listen to,
This is going to be a slobber knocker.
check out our NCRA award-winning lineup of programs or stream us anytime at ckxu.com.
McIntyre with a claymore to CM Punk. Crawls to the cover. McIntyre screaming for Rollins. Shot into position. Come on. Do it. McIntyre with the win.
Yay boo, it's lots of fun to do. If you like it, holla yay. If you don't, you holla boo.
Welcome back to McGuire on Wrestling.
Courtesy of Arthur Godfrey from the 1950s, which was brought back to life by Conan O'Brien. That is the Yay Boo song, and it is the unofficial jingle for our new segment here on McGuire on Wrestling. SummerSlam Cleveland, Yay Boo, where we get your opinions on each match of the show. This will also be our unofficial official SummerSlam recap. And here to join me in the yaying and the booing, ladies and gentlemen, our old friend Joe Aguinaldo. Joe, how you doing, bud?
I'm good, man. And yay boo, yay boo. That is so that is so catchy, and it has a very, very Ren and Stimpy feel to it. If hopefully people will get that reference.
If pulling a song from the 1950s didn't make us feel old enough, then maybe even talking about Ren and Stimpy does it now. Because what we've done on the Team MoW McGuire on Wrestling Facebook page is we have listed a Yay Boo panel where you can still leave feedback now. Again, just join Team MoW McGuire on Wrestling on Facebook and look for the SummerSlam Cleveland Yay Boo graphic. We're going to get our own 2 cents in on this as well, but are you ready to do the first edition of Yay Boo?
Let's go.
First match then would have to be, what was it, the WWE Women's World Championship. Liv Morgan defending her championship against the returning Rhea Ripley, with Dirty Dom in her corner representing the Judgment Day. Now, I want you to go ahead and give your yay boo on this match first of all.
I give this one a resounding yay.
Okay.
I like the match, and I also like the story that happens after the match and where it hopefully is going. So I'm intrigued. I thought Liv was the right person to win. I think it's still too early for Rhea to win that back. I want to see her chase a bit more. So yeah, totally yay on that one.
Well, you know what? I have to agree to a degree, and Dave brought it up in our conversation here. Not sure if Rhea Ripley is totally 100% back yet, but I agree that Rhea needed to have some more obstacles against her to get this title back. And of course, the ultimate one is losing her dom-dom. So that would play for a theme of the night here. I'll give it a yay. I'll give it a yay for sure. Other yays come from Devin Axman, who says, good stuff by Liv. Wish they wouldn't have made the shoulder so obvious, but it is what it is. Another yay from our pal Andy Evans, who says, in fairness, you could see the dom turn coming a mile off, but it still didn't take anything away from seeing it. Another yay here from Nigel Maxwell. It just says awesome. And then Steph Minutes says yay, a great opener, and the match and the outcome didn't do much to harm either Rhea or Liv here. Another yay from Robert, then some boos. Overall, the yays have that one. The Intercontinental Championship on the line. Sami Zayn versus Braun Breaker. Sami Zayn defending his title here. Let's go through the feedback first here. Andy Evans says, boo, unpopular opinion, but not the biggest fan of either guy, so I checked out, although Breaker is the future of WWE. Everybody else a resounding yay on this one so far, from John Persky, Blaine, Robert, and more still coming in here. So lots of yays. What do you think?
From an opinion perspective, I do agree with what Andy said. Shout out to Andy, by the way. I'm not the biggest fan of Sammy. I'm not the biggest fan of Braun, but I thought it was a yay because I think that's the direction that you want to go. And, Braun Breaker is the future of WWE, or one of the future pieces. That's not a knock on Sammy or anything like that. So yeah, I'm going to give it a yay. This is probably the match that I probably cared about the least.
Fair enough. I'll give it a tentative yay as well. I think that Braun Breaker definitely has the skill set and everything to move forward here. But like I said before, I'm kind of feeling like in some of these cases and some of these title changes, the way I felt back in the day when new champions would emerge in any era. It's like, are we really ready for this? Am I ready to get behind this guy? I will say that the post-match stuff and the post-show stuff where Breaker seemingly is turning a little more babyface and a kinder, gentler badass is what we seem to have in store for us here. So next up for the WWE United States Championship, Logan Paul defending his title against everybody saying L.A. Knight. Let's start with let's go to it. Joe, are you a yeah or a boo?
I'm a yeah.
Yeah.
I dug both the match and the story. If I wanted to get really picky, and this is me being very insanely nitpicky, right? It's like the minute that you show a celebrity, it's like, all right, well, we know there's going to be some interference here.
Right.
But for the most part, I really like this match. I think Logan Paul is a great heel. He does all the heel things correctly. He's not trying to be liked. He's trying to be a jerk. So, I dug this. And I think it's about time LA Knight got like sort of a big win with a title. So totally behind this match.
Okay. I will give it a reluctant yeah as well. Again, with the celebrity thing, you said Logan Paul does everything great as a heel. He does, but he doesn't, because the one biggest thing to me is if you're a heel, why are celebrities siding with you? That does no favor to MGK. That did no favor to anybody else that he's brought out in the past here, because y'all think, oh, these people like this dork. And he's a great job as a heel on his own. But why is he bringing out famous people who we like and then, associating them with him? Like, that should be happening if he's running as a babyface, I think. But nevertheless, it gave MGK something to do there. MGK also, by the way, just released a cover of the Dixie Chicks song, Long Time Gone, which is really weird. I played it on my morning show this past week. But anyway, I'm with you. I do think that Knight has needed some sort of an elevator here, and this title is definitely probably the thing that's going to do it for him. Let's go to the feedback here as far as some of your thoughts on the Team MoW McGuire on Wrestling Facebook page. A lot of yeahs on this one here. Devin Axman giving it a yay. LA Knight's best match. Logan Paul continues to rule. Okay. Well, you know what? You got to give it to him. Logan Paul does seem like he knows what he's doing here. Stephen Bennett from the UK says, I'm glad LA Knight finally wins a title, but if he hadn't won this, I think people would start getting bored of him not getting the rub. So, yeah, you know what? That's a boo there, but a lot of yays in favor of the outcome of that match as well. Next up, it's the WWE Women's Championship. Bayley defending her title against Queen Nia Jax. Joe, I'm going to let you go ahead and yay boo first.
I have never been the biggest fan of Nia Jax. I think you know that. You've known me long enough that you know this.
Yep.
However, I love this match. Absolutely a yay.
Why?
Number one, I just liked the match. I thought the match was good. But number two, I'm really, really curious about this whole Tiffany Nia thing. And I don't know. I wasn't expecting to like this match because it was Nia Jax, but as I watched it, I was like, you know what? Damn it, I like this match, so I'm giving it a yay.
Spot of the match had to be Bayley nailing the power bomb on Nia.
Yeah, that was amazing.
That was crazy fun to watch, and the whole crowd. I mean, it lifted the whole crowd up from 0 to 100 right there because it was such a spectacle to see. And then, it's Tiffy time. She comes running to the ring. We think we're getting a cash in, but we're not. And then it turns out it may have all been the devious plan to begin with. But either way, Nia Jax, your new queen of the ring and your new WWE Women's Champion. I'll give it a... Yeah, you know what? I'm hard to disappoint, though. So, I'll give it a yay. Other feedback here. A boo from John Perska. No reason why there. Andy says, yay. It had its moments. I'm intrigued on where next for Bayley and how long until we have the face turn and cash in by Tiffy time. Okay.
Yep.
Blaine says yay, and Stefan also says yay, while Robert gives it a boo. Okay. On to one of the hottest feuds in WWE this year at WWE SummerSlam. It was CM Punk and Drew McIntyre with Seth Rollins as special guest referee. Let's go ahead and go to the feedback first here because a lot of people having things to say about this one. John gives it a yay. Devin gives it a huge boo. He says they fought over a friendship bracelet in what was supposed to be a blood feud. Terry Funk ain't wear no mouthpiece, and Punk's favorite wrestler, Harley Race, wouldn't fight over a friendship bracelet. What's next? Punk being mad Drew didn't share the snacks at lunch.
That's pretty good, actually.
Okay, Andy says yay, although slightly shocked at the result. The right result happened, and now looking forward to seeing where this goes with Punk and Rollins. Okay, I can give that. Yay here from Blaine. Stefan gives it a yay, says love the nod to SummerSlam 97 between Bret Hart, Undertaker, and Shawn Michaels. Yeah, there was a lot of that in this match. And then yay, outstanding storytelling from Robert Kempton. Joe, your thoughts on this match?
Okay, I can only give it a yay and a boo.
Yep.
Then I'm going to go with a boo.
Okay.
The Seth Rollins, the match was good. And I understand where they're going with this story, but the whole Seth Rollins thing took me out of it. Like when he was sitting on the turnbuckle, not counting, and then he was kind of like arguing with Punk. It's like if you're supposed to be the ref, be the ref. That totally took me out of the match. Otherwise, I love the fight. I thought it was a great fight. But overall, got to give it a boo.
This may surprise you because it featured... Actually, you know what? I like all three guys, really. I like Seth Rollins now that he's a little more serious, but I'm going to give this a boo as well because of exactly what you said. I thought the special referee thing had a chance to make it more interesting and more special. And I thought all the little antics, the tying of the sneakers, hey, stop clotheslining Punk with the underside of the ring and then saying, now go ahead. I thought it made it a little too unrealistic. And I say that knowing we're talking about pro wrestling here, but there was a moment in the match where Punk and Rollins start arguing and he says, we don't need you here, saying this to Punk and going back to that Seth Rollins character. But at the same time, he was kind of clowning around the rest of the match.
That's exactly it. It was inconsistent. Like if you're hanging out on the turnbuckle and you're tying your shoe, that's haha. Yeah. I actually did like it when Seth and Punk were arguing and where Seth was saying, we don't need you here. You're whatever. I thought that was good, but overall the whole ref thing took me out of it. And you're right. That had every opportunity to make it so much better and so much more intense. And it didn't.
All right. We move forward now to our men's world championship match. Gunther challenging Damian Priest. And we would see not only Damian Priest lose this match, but also the implosion of the Judgment Day. So let's get down to the feedback here from the people first on the McGuire on Wrestling Facebook page here. Lots of replies to this one. A lot of people very happy that Gunther won the title here. In fact, resounding yays across the board here. Devin says, lots of meat slapping and moved the story along. And then the rest is just a lot of resounding yays here. Joe, your thoughts on this match?
No, gonna disagree. Gonna give it a boo. I thought it was too soon for Gunther to win a title after just going through a long IC reign. And to be honest with you, this is more of a what's the word I'm looking for? I feel bad for Damian Priest because I thought he had so much more potential, and it just seems like they said, "Nah, we're good. I'm gonna give this a boo."
It's funny. We say it's got to be a yay or a boo, and I'm the ultimate fence sitter most of the time here. I'm really trying to figure out, maybe you can help me figure out if this is a yay or a boo here. I don't mind that Damian lost now. I've said it before. There have been a lot of world champions that have had so-so first runs and gone on to have great runs thereafter. So I think the potential for Damian Priest is still there. And it's such a stupid little thing. And I realize it's 2024 and all this other stuff. I don't like the chops. And I don't like the chops to bleeding. Like the point where we're actually tearing open each other's chest now to the point of bleeding. Like, when did this become such an important thing? And if it's Gunther's thing, that's fine. But I don't know. I just still think these matches can be so great without literally tearing each other's chests open.
See, it's weird because I'm not even really a Damian Priest fan. I just feel bad for his title reign. That's why I gave it a boo. I think the more interesting title chase is Gunther going after Cody.
Okay, so where do I sit, though? Am I a yay or a boo?
From the sounds of it, it sounds like a boo because you just don't like the chops.
Yeah, I guess it is. It's a reluctant boo. I've had reluctant.
Yeah, I'm not saying you hate it. I'm just saying that Like, that's something you just kind of harped on. And it's like, yeah, I get it.
All right, last one on the card here. This is the match that everybody was waiting to see what would happen at the end of it. It was Solo Sikoa vying for Cody Rhodes' WWE Undisputed Championship and Bloodline rules, which means basically anything can happen. It has to end by pinfall or submission. Everything and anything did happen in this match. Joe, let's start with your feedback. Yay, boo.
Okay, this is a tough one for me because I love where everything is going.
Mm-hmm.
But because I can only give it one vote, I'm giving it a boo.
What?
Here's why.
What?
Okay? Any Bloodline match, you're waiting for the interference. Right. So really, you have 20 minutes or 15 minutes of like, hurry up and get to the punchline. And then the Roman thing happened. Awesome. Great. Love the story. Absolutely cannot wait to see where this goes. But this match, total boo for me.
Okay, my first question is, why are Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa not the tag team champions together? My second question is, why were Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa wearing Chris O'Donnell, Batman and Robin cosplay outfits? But I have to give this thing a resounding yay because it did deliver what the fans wanted. Yes, you got through all the hoopla and all the garbage with all the run-ins and everything else. We knew that was all coming. We knew it was all coming. But the big one was the end when Roman Reigns resurfaces and doesn't even hesitate, right? There wasn't this standing in the ring waiting for a minute and then deciding who he's going to attack. He went right after Solo Sikoa and basically retook his throne. WWE is now in this era where they'll try and give as much as the fans want, and sometimes they'll hold back a bit. But overall, it's like they're almost doing what AEW was doing at the time, but they're doing it a little better because they hold back a little longer. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
So
and they're not giving it right away.
I'll give it the yay here, as did John Persky. Boo from Devin Axman, who says all that Bloodline matches are waiting for the interference and running.
See? Yeah. Devin knows, man. Devin knows.
Nigel says boo, says only setting up for Roman's return, and I'm not buying into Solo as a main eventer yet. And I did talk about this with Dave too. Solo did feel a little rushed, I feel, in that spot, especially with how hard it was for Cody to beat him. Blaine says boo. Stefan says yay, and boo from Robert as well. And more feedback still rolling in again on that Team MoW McGuire and Wrestling Facebook page. But Joe, we are out of time. This has been the first edition of Yay Boo here on McGuire on Wrestling, going through the entire SummerSlam card. If you're just tuning into the show on the radio and miss everything else we talked about, there's a lot there at McGuireShow.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Just check out McGuire on Wrestling. And Joe, we are still working on the Leo Burke life of story because I was honored enough to be invited to his service this past weekend through some friends. And let's just say that a lot of the stories I heard there are some of the stories we have for you coming up. So some great guests on that going to be coming up in the next few weeks here. But I want to put this thing together and do it right. So that will be coming. But in the meantime, find yourself some Leo Burke matches and watch those as well. Joe, thank you for joining us for this week's edition of the show as well. And to everybody else out there, as always, thank you for listening and letting me do what I do. Play safe, drive safe. See ya.
McGuire on Wrestling, online and on the radio. Listen to the show Mondays at 4 p.m. Mountain Time at CKXU.com, wherever you get your podcasts, and at McGuireShow.com.